Hello, Libra. Welcome to your birthday month. Happy birthday to all of you. Happy solar return. I hope this month goes well. I really do. I do think we have a lot of relationship stuff on the docket. Doesn't necessarily have to be romantic, but I do feel that with the Venus retrograde happening between Scorpio and your sign, that we are going to have a focus on our relations with others. And even first and foremost, here we go, like straight out of the gate. Here you are, a Knight of Wands versus a King of Cups here, okay? And this one came out first, so I pulled that one like this. So it'll be the center. So look, first of all, let's talk about all the beautiful things about a Knight of Wands. He's optimistic, he's philosophical, he's ready to make changes, he's mobile, he's agile, he's willing to do what it takes. There's also a quality of like really quality love that comes with a Knight of Wands. And when a Knight of Wands decides to fall in love, he really decides to fall in love. And then we get this King of Cups here, which is a Scorpio-like quality. It can be any sign, you guys. But this is someone who has emotional stability. There might be a little bit of repression going on. It may be different sides of you as well, right? It could be you internally battling with this, like, I want to just be this open person 100% and just have my heart just, And then there's that part of you that's like, no, you really got to protect yourself. You got to, keep it in and you have to do it more purposefully and stay grounded and all of this. So there could be an internal kind of thing going on, or you more taking on this Knight of Wands, someone else taking more on this King of Cups. You guys are definitely operating on different paces, This person seems to be pacing the relationship or pacing the communication and the connection. But the interest is definitely there. There's mutual respect and reciprocity. It's just that they are a lot more slow. Let's say the word slow. They're a lot slower and are really needing time to process. Look, this King of Cups takes a really long time to process stuff. They feel stuff, but it takes them a long time to figure it out, what it is they're feeling and why they're feeling that way. A fire sign can be like, yeah, this is what I'm feeling, and I know exactly what it is. And there's not really a lot of question as to where that's really coming from. So if you're operating more as this Knight of Wands and like really knowing what your heart is wanting and knowing really where you're headed, it can be frustrating when you're dealing with people who don't know, who don't get it, or who aren't on the same page as you. Like that bottom one there. Ace of Cups. And then the Moon reverse. So here we have the Ace of Cups, which is beautiful with emotional connection. There's emotional connection. There's a quality of friendship and fulfillment and spirituality and gratitude. I've recently been seeing this card come out with an element of service as well. Being of service to one another and openly giving to the people that are important to you. Being someone that doesn't have a lack of boundaries, right? Who gives too much, but that does truly find satisfaction in giving, in being there for someone. The Moon suggests kind of a weird time. And you have to expect that with the Venus retrograde. That just comes with this month, all right? It just is what it is. There's going to be conversations that you weren't expecting to have. There's potential that something could come to light, something surfaces, someone confesses something to you, or you confess something to someone else, or you find out, it can go a myriad of different ways. But at the end of the day, I think there is going to be this essence of illumination. And right now, with the King of Cups and the Moon, there is this very kind of whimsical, intangible kind of thing in the air And you may feel a little bit conflicted because you're maybe wanting, like, see, this knight has a lot of drive. He has a lot of ambition. He has, again, that optimistic quality. So it's like, yeah, let's just go do it. And it's kind of like, let's just jump in with both feet. But something is really kind of keeping that from happening. Probably this person or this part of you, right? This one that is trying to do it right this time, who's trying to think about it while it's happening, can kind of get in the way sometimes, but sometimes it's a good thing. Okay, what do we get here? Lovers reversed. So it can represent the internal side, of course. It's the card of Gemini as well. Gemini, the twins, the duality. You especially, I would say, you, Gemini, and Pisces, which now we're getting Gemini and Pisces represented here, all can really understand the duality very well, because it's kind of a part of your archetype. It's a part of what your sign represents. And so when there's an imbalance here, internally often manifests externally, fire and water, mutable versus fixed. There's different movement styles. It is a sign of something going on inside. It is a sign of our psychological patterns. It's a sign of things that need to be looked at, acknowledged, and addressed. Sometimes the lovers can be I often see it as like a wedge, right? The mountain kind of looks like it's wedged in between two people. And like there's something that comes in and kind of forces you guys into different camps. Like you go over here and this person goes over here. And you're then kind of forced to figure out your differences and really come to grips with what it's going to take to really bring you guys back together. How do you reestablish trust? How do you reestablish unity? And again, internally as well. How do you establish that? See, I've kind of been frustrated with how a lot of people just say the word balance, and Libra being all about balance. And I've even caught myself saying that so much too. Like, what does that really mean? And I don't even really quite have an answer for that. I think everyone's going to have their own answer for that. But what does being balanced really mean? Does it mean you're not very emotional? Does it mean you can handle difficult situations well? Does it mean that you can control your emotions? Does it mean, it's going to have different meanings for all. And I think it's time for you to really define what that means. What does having balance really mean for you? And figuring out what it's going to take to really get to that place, to really get to that state of mind. So that your external relationships can also be balanced. You internally must come to unity so that you externally can come to unity as well. There's going to be an opportunity for that. So it's not really such a big deal. 6 of Coins comes out. Actually, this one came out too, the bottom one, 2 of Coins. So there's, what did I just say about balance, right? And here we have a card that signifies balance. But see, when we have Venus retrograde in Scorpio, there is a pull toward authenticity. Did I say that already? There's a pull toward authenticity. You're not really going to have an option. Now is not a time when we're going to, we got to keep it real. Otherwise, we're just going to, the more we repress it, the worse it's going to come out later. And we are going to have to just say it like it is. To ourselves first, and then to other people that need to hear it. It's no longer going to be acceptable to keep things, you being over giving to someone else, or you being overly selfish, or, however it's going down. It's no longer going to be acceptable. There is a breaking point to that. Luckily, I think that it's going to break and it's going to be positive because of the Ace of Cups. So just because there's a breaking point doesn't mean it's going to be this big old mess. Doesn't mean that, right? It just means that it's going to change, and how wonderful change can be. You may have kind of established some level of comfort here for now, and that's fine, but it's time to get uncomfortable. And with your solar return, you're going to have the energy to really deal with that. You're going to have the wherewithal. Sometimes we find ourselves wearing too many masks. We have our work masks, our mommy or daddy masks. We have our friendships and our spiritual and our, working out and, all these different masks that we wear. And sometimes it gets very exhausting. Sometimes it gets to the point where we really just can't bear that weight of faking it anymore. And I always get frustrated when people talk about Libra as being fake and flaky and, just kind of really superficial, because the Libras that I know are not like that at all. They may have a hard time because they really do want people to be happy. They genuinely do care about other people. That just kind of came off the bottom of the deck there. So we'll pull it, the Empress reverse, and there's your card of Libra. Venus ruled right there, coming out reversed. So why is she reversed? You're kind of also coming out as this Knight of Wands, being the center card as well. Coming out is very, very optimistic, but maybe in some way also really not believing it as well. Maybe this is the internal imbalance more so than that, right? And this is what really needs to come into acknowledgement. The Empress can sometimes be a bit proud, She can be a little bit detached. She can be very detached. She can be very holier than thou as well. It really is important for you to admit your faults, just as it important is for someone else to admit their fault as well, because there's faults on both sides, and it's important to remember perception and this idea of just there is no such thing as truth. There are only half-truths, and every single person is coming at this situation from a different standpoint, from a different background, a different childhood, different books they've read, different movies they've watched, different jobs they have, different circles, right? So everyone's lens is so different. So to have that kind of an open mind and to let the other person also be right, you kind of have to just accept that you're both right. You're both right. And both sides of you are also right. So how do you take these? Essentially, I'm getting like 3 different stories, 3 different outlooks, or 4 or more. Right? How do you get all these different kinds of things here to all work together so that you can reestablish unity and trust? It's going to be a different pathway for each of you, and we'll clarify this one, especially in the comprehensive. We have some, we'll definitely need to clarify this person, this Empress reverse, 6 of coins, the moon. These are things that are not insurmountable. You can get through them quickly. They're not the end of the world. It's not dark and scary. It's just something you just have to face. Talk about it. The one thing you shouldn't do is withhold conversation at this point. Sometimes with the moon reverse, we tend to kind of close our mouths a little bit. We tend to what did I just say? And here we have the 3 of coins, which is all about conversation, collaboration, working together. It's about creative solutions, being creative in how you approach this situation. And this is an amazing card for productivity, the actual accomplishment of some uncertain goals. Let's figure it out, Some of you may be going into therapy. Like, I know that Libra and Ascendants have Saturn going through their 4th house right now. And I got to tell you, Saturn in the 4th house is a great time for you to hunker down, to really think about your childhood or some of your roots, right? Where you came from, and really think about why you do the things you do. That's one of the traits of Saturn transiting the fourth house, is that people tend to go through a deep analysis of themselves, and not in a self-indulgent, selfish, kind of weepy, whiny kind of way, but with the purpose of making their lives better, and with the purpose of breaking those patterns, understanding where they're coming from, and reaching a new level of awareness. I suspect you're dealing with someone who also wants that same kind of awareness as well, because the King of Cups is very, it's high quality, right? It's someone who works hard. They could be brutally honest sometimes. And even they're much harsher on themselves, and you would never know. A King of Cups is someone who is loyal to a fault, or has the potential to be. And when they feel betrayed, they can very often just disappear. And so if you find someone drifting, or if you find someone detaching in some kind of way, and in a way perhaps it's not really that nice, and maybe on some level you too are also drifting or detaching, you're doing maybe you're doing that to each other, I don't know. It's important for you to be conscious enough to know that it's okay for you to reach out, and that person actually really does want you to reach out. And it's okay for you to be the giver right now. And it might not be that boyfriend that treated you terribly. It might not be your mom that you can't get. It might be someone else. It might be someone a little bit more understated than that. So open your eyes and open your hearts and really look around and say, who can I help today? Because by helping them, you help yourself. And by helping them, you achieve that internal balance. And when you achieve internal balance, your world becomes more balanced. And when that happens, you tend to live a life that is easier to really deal with and easier to really conquer. There's caution in the air, full reverse. Three of Swords indicates healing, which I'm not surprised. Whenever Lovers comes out reverse, it does tell me that there is something that was painful. There's something that was hard, whether hard to admit, hard to hear, hard to learn, especially if you were kind of on the receiving end of someone else's deceit or whatever, can be really, really harsh. And be sure that you're not hiding from yourself, though, right? Because a lot of times when people come out like this, I often see it as a reflection, right? So on the outside, we're this Knight of Wands, but on the inside, we're this Empress reversed. And it's really important for you to recognize, like I say, the masks that you're wearing, because you're not going to really be able to keep those going for that much longer. We never can. And eventually, we're going to have to really drop those. Luckily you're doing okay now because it is in the upright position, but eventually we get tired of holding them this way. Now is a time to really think about your life, to think about where you're going, think about what it is you want, and to not have any reservations in actually believing that you can achieve those things. One of the things that I've recently come in contact with, now I'm going to use some pretty harsh black and white kind of language here. I'm using the word evil here, even though I don't really believe in that so much. So I just want you to know that. But, when you're sitting there and you engage in any kind of negative self-talk, right? Any kind of thinking you can't do something, or thinking it might not be worth it, or thinking people won't care, or whatever. Whenever you engage in that kind of thinking, it is essentially the microcosm within the macrocosm of the good versus evil war kind of thing, right? And again, I'm using that harsh language just to illustrate the point. And so when you recognize those negative thoughts as quote unquote evil or bad, it actually makes it easier for you to be like, get out of here. Like, I don't need that evil stuff running through my mind. I don't need these voices in my mind that tell me that I'm not good enough or whatever. And sometimes that dark stuff can creep in with the Three of Swords and a Lover's reverse. It can kind of overtake us in a way that can be really all-consuming. A Three of Swords can be very consuming, and then it can just kind of steal our focus in life. But if you can focus on the positive things, which I think in some way, this might even be manifesting as like a fake it till you make it kind of energy, being this Knight of Wands, optimistic and all of this, for the sole purpose of trying to like actually be like that, to actually be open, even though there's a big part of you that's like maybe a little bit scared, maybe a little bit terrified, and maybe afraid of getting hurt, afraid of rejection, afraid of whatever. But it is important to focus on that bright light, the bright love in your heart, and the overall optimism of where this could possibly go, because we all know that there's like 7 billion people on this planet and no one really cares. Like, we care because it's our life and we always kind of tend to be the center of our own life, of course. So we care. But in the grand scheme, does anyone really care? Not really. And so when you start feeling fearful, or when you start feeling insignificant or insecure, and that evil kind of creeps into your mind, and you can say, look, okay, this is the battle of good and evil going on inside of me, and I can engage in the good. I can engage in higher consciousness and love, right? I don't have to engage in anything other than that. And so to keep your heart focused was indicated with this Two of Wands, keeping your heart focused, keeping your vision clear. Because I know that you've had so many things thrown at you this year that now is really a time for you to establish some kind of roots and to really start planting those seeds for real this time. Because you're going to start seeing growth like you cannot even begin to imagine. And it's actually good that this Venus retrograde is happening on your solar return, because you're going to have the opportunity to have a real blank slate, right? Ace of Cups, the moon reversed, it's a blank slate. Getting it all out there and just kind of starting from scratch and having the opportunity to rewrite your story, to change your path, change your patterns, and to really do it differently this time. And I know you can, and I know you will. There's a lot of really beautiful things on the docket for you, Libra, and I'm so excited to see what you do in the upcoming year. I really do wish you nothing but the best this birthday season, okay? If you want the comprehensive, there's a lot to talk about, especially this Three of Swords and the Fool reverse over here as well. So hopefully I'll see you on the website. If not, I will see you next month. Thanks so much. Take care.